Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan, and today we're going to be continuing our Clone Wars history series. We're in the second year. This is 21 BBY. In our last episode, we looked at how Darth Sidious and legendary bounty hunter Cad Bane were able to break into the fortress that was the Jedi Temple, steal a holocron with a list of Force-sensitive babies, and in turn steal those babies and then turn them into surgically altered Sith killing machines. So much for the Clone Wars TV show just being for kids. Chapter 5, The Battle of Malastare. Malastare was home to a species known as the Dug. You might remember that charming pod racer from Phantom Menace, Sebulba. He's a pretty good representation of the species. They had long snouts, walked on their arms, and used their legs as hands, which meant that they ate with their feet. Which actually doesn't really make sense if you look at how their limbs are proportioned. I mean, something really messed up happened in their evolution. Probably. The Dugs, like most of the sketchier looking non-humans in the galaxy, were generally not to be trusted. They were usually hyper-aggressive and pissed off. This was due to the fact that their culture had at one point in time been subjugated by the advanced Grand Race. Combine that with an average height of only 1 meter, and you had an entire species with a Napoleon complex. The Dugs were relatively xenophobic and rarely ever left their homeworld. The ones that did usually ended up being criminals. Malastare's location in the galaxy was pretty important. It was situated in the mid-rim on the Hydean Way, an important trade artery connecting the outer rim to the core worlds. Several victories earlier in the war on planets like Ryloth, Naboo, Geonosis, and also Christophsis happened in this sector of space, and now the Republic were looking for a supply and resource depot that they could supply their newly gained territory from. Furthermore, the outer rim hub world of Iradu, home of the Tarkin family, was just one hyperspace jump away from Malastare. Iradu was connected to both the Hydean Way and Rima trade route, along with important industrial planets like Solus. The sheer lane of hyperspace lanes converging on Iradu made it a key strategic point for both the Republic and the Separatists, and for the Republic, Malastare was their gateway to that system. And not only did Malastare have a strategically vital location, it also had a large reserve of fuel ready for export. As a matter of fact, the native Dugs had deforested giant sections of the world in order to pump out Malastarian fuel, and it made up a majority of their economic production. So it comes to no surprise that both the Republic and Separatist forces sent massive armies that conquered the planet. This theater of the war was important enough to warrant the presence of not only Mace Windu, but also Anakin Skywalker. Like Mentos and Coke, this was a very deadly pairing. Even the Supreme Chancellor was somewhat involved in this battle. He was in the middle of signing a treaty with the Dugs to get access to their massive fuel reserves. The Dugs were, of course, hesitant to sign any treaty with the Republic because things were looking grim on the battlefield. They weren't really sure which side was going to win just yet. Although officially the Republic were fighting to defend the world of Malastare, if the Separatist droid army won, then the Dug would probably thank the Separatists for liberating their planet from the Republic. Never trust an alien who shakes your hand with their feet. That's just not right. And as of now, the Separatists were definitely on their way to winning the battle. The terrain on Malastare was mostly flat, allowing for massive deployments of troops in essentially parade formation. The Separatist droids were of lower quality, but much quicker and faster to manufacture, and they were able to use their numbers advantage to full effect on Malastare. The Republic clone troopers had superior troopers, but they really weren't able to use the terrain to their advantage like they did on other worlds. But the JR had one ace up their sleeve. Republic scientist Cyan Verbol had developed a giant electroproton bomb. This was essentially a huge EMP blast, but without a nuclear explosion. Technically speaking, the weapon shouldn't have any long-term negative effects on organic beings, but it would do a ton of damage to any machine or droids within its blast radius. Although there were some small concerns from the Dug and Mace Windu that this gigantic bomb might have some unseen consequences on the environment. Time was running out and the Separatists were making a final push against the Republic forces on the planet, so the Republic sent a wing of Y-bombers escorted by ARC-170s and V-19 Torrent starfighters to fly directly to the center of the Separatist formation and unleash the weapon. An EMP manifests itself over the center of the droid army and spread out, disabling every droid and machine within miles of the blast. Dr. Bull's weapon was hugely successful and now has given the Republic a huge advantage over the Separatist droid army. Although it does seem kind of odd that the Separatists have put limited EM shielding on their droids. Something will have to significantly change for future battles. Anyway, the victory is won, or at least that's what everyone thinks. You see, the Republic just happened to have detonated the EMP over very unstable ground. And suddenly, a gigantic sinkhole appears beneath the battlefield, swallowing up deactivated droids along with a good portion of the Republic forces, which should have been a bloodless victory for their clone army all of a sudden turned into a bloodbath. In an effort to find survivors, Mace Windu and several squads of clones venture into the sinkhole. The ground is still unstable, and it's possible that the ground might collapse even more. To make matters worse, everything within the sinkhole is obscured by a thick fog. Suddenly, a gigantic beast emerges from the fog and attacks the rescue team. It's a monstrous thing, part dragon, part queen from Alien. It's the Zillo Beast, a creature that would feel at home in a Godzilla film, just minus the god. The Republic forces naturally start freaking out. This gigantic 100-meter long, 60,000 metric killing machine was completely impervious to all conventional weapons. The Dug, however, immediately realized what the hell this thing is. Long ago, before the Dugs had become an advanced society, the Zillo Beast ruled the planet and roamed freely across its surface, devouring entire cities. The Dug finally collected all of their resources and technology and fought a devastating war against the Zillo Beast, which drove them to extinction. Worse yet, the Dug had a prophecy that one day, one Zillo Beast would come back and destroy their entire civilization. So naturally, the Dugs were all freaking out about this situation. As a matter of fact, the Dug Council threatens to withdraw themselves from the Republic Fuel Treaty if the JAR doesn't immediately kill the giant monster. But the Jedi argued that it would be very wrong to kill an innocent creature, a creature's home you have just disturbed. Classic Jedi nonsense. They would be saying the same thing if the Zillo Beast burst into the Jedi Temple and just started eating younglings. But then Dr. Cyan Verbold points out that the monster's impervious armor could prove to be very beneficial for the Republic war machine. If they could somehow replicate or create a synthetic form of this armor for their own soldiers, they could save a lot of lives. So the JAR attempts to use the RX-200 Falchion-class assault tank to bring down the Zillo Beast. Like the self-propelled heavy artillery turbo laser, the RX-200 utilized a giant ion beam that typically would be used on a capital ship. These artillery platforms were designed to pierce deflector shields and could easily bring down something as large as a Star Destroyer. They were also pretty good at disabling the engines of any kind of mechanized machine. The Republic would use multiple stun tanks to knock out the Zillo Beast. The stupid Dug would think that the Zillo Beast was dead, they would sign the treaty, and then the JR would be able to bring the Zillo Beast back home to study. But it didn't work out that way. You see, even the stun tanks aren't really enough to completely take out the giant reptile. Luckily, the Dug did find out in one of their ancient manuscripts that the Zillo Beast had one weakness, Malastare fuel, which they began immediately flooding into the sinkhole. This combined with the stun tanks finally puts the Zillo Beast out. The Republic wins the day and win the fuel contract and win a giant monster. Palpatine is super happy. The Zillo Beast, for some reason, is brought back to Coruscant. Most likely Palpatine and his scientists have never seen King Kong or Godzilla. Clearly, it would have been a better idea to place the Zillo Beast on a less populated planet, which wasn't completely covered in a giant city full of trillions of people. Mace Windu expresses his concerns once again, but Palpatine is adamant that they figure out what makes the Beast's armor so strong. Dr. Bull immediately begins working on the Beast and debriefs Palpatine. In order to advance with their analysis, they would need to take the monster's scale off its body. This would be an incredibly painful process. Palpatine, being the humane person that he was, suggests just killing the Zillo Beast. Like most mad scientists, Bull finds beauty in this horrendous creature and theorizes that it might be even sentient. And because it's the last of its kind, killing it would be immoral. But in reality, what is immoral is letting that gigantic monster rampage through Coruscant. Which is exactly what happens. After Bull attempts to kill the Zillo Beast with some Malastarian fuel, the creature escapes from its restraints and starts smashing everything as it works its way across Coruscant. But instead of just aimlessly wandering around and killing things, the Zillo Beast is heading directly towards the Senate District. It remembers Palpatine and wants to kill him. Luckily, this area is also near the Jedi Temple, and Yoda leads a team of Jedi to try to attempt to neutralize the beast, or stall long enough to let the military arrive. The JAR was refitting some of their gunships with Malastarian-fueled weapons. The Zillo Beast manages to take out a transport evacuating Chancellor Palpatine, and just as the beast is about to close in for the final blow, several Republic gunships arrive and bomb the monster with Malastarian fuel. The poisonous gas floods the area and slowly the Zillo Beast succumbs. The gas also almost kills Palpatine. Luckily, several Jedi are there with them and they create a force bubble that prevents the gas from overwhelming them. So I guess this episode was about being careful and not using super weapons when you can avoid it. Even with weapons like the EMP, which is supposed to be harmless, you can see there's a lot of terrible side effects. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button. And if you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.